Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Well, I thought I would mix in another Cryptids of the Week here while I'm wrapping up some of the other videos on the Ghost and Spirit side. I did a huge trip this past weekend. I guess you could call it somewhat huge. It was just basically a 3-day trip to the Dallas Comic-Con, and I'm going to create yet another video of that experience too. Lots of pictures coming soon. And the reason why I picked this particular cryptid is because by sheer coincidence, when I was staying at my hotel that very evening, I believe it might have been on a Saturday, there was Jurassic Park 3 playing on the TV. So it was quite nice to see that movie yet again. Just something as far as like a trade, like going back in time of sorts and seeing that movie. It has its faults, but it's somewhat pretty good. Well, of course, one of the most prominent animals or dinosaurs within the movie itself is the very, very large pterosaur, or in some cases a pterodactyl, I guess, just depends on your interpretation. But whenever I saw this random page, I thought to myself, what a coinkydink. I mean, this is by far one of the best coincidences yet, because this creature happens to be a pterosaur-like cryptid that apparently still roams several regions of Africa, and there are a multitude of encounters to cite here. So normally, if we're talking about dinosaur-like creatures, they all come and go. They're pretty much the same. And when you talk about one, like I've talked about the ropin in the past, then it falls in this category. But there are so many fascinating encounters. So what is this particular cryptid? Well, it's called the Kongamato, which you're looking at a picture of here. Instantly, you realize that it is just like every other pterosaur-like dinosaur that you've seen in the past. But the key thing, of course, is that this thing is still roaming the areas of Africa, certain areas of Africa, particularly those areas that happen to have a large number of rivers or large bodies of lake. And their encounters are plentiful, and they seem to be rather not horrific, but definitely memorable to those people that come across it. So here's all the information. So what is the Kongamato? Well, again, it's a large pterosaur-like cryptid. You have to go to certain regions of Africa, in particular Zambia, Angola, and then finally the more well-known Congo. And the reason why it has its name, the Kongamatos, is because it stands for the breaker of boats, or the overturner of boats, as one of its key distinct features is it will attack anybody and anyone that happens to come across its area. It is very territorial, not necessarily predator like it won't actually hunt people altogether, but it does fight and it does protect its territory if you come across it. And there are tales, I think these will go back generations, if even centuries, of natives there in those areas that tell of encounters where there they are in their canoe. They're essentially trying to cross a river or trying to go down a river, and then they come across this creature's territory, and when that happens, it starts fighting them. It has a huge amount of teeth in its beak, and it starts to overturn them, which, depending on where you are within the river, can be very, very dangerous. Again, as far as the characteristics of this creature, think of it like your average pterosaur, only in some cases smaller, because the wingspan seems to be about 4 feet across typically, so not too large, but there are reports apparently of some of them having 100 feet across in terms of a wingspan. Now that is much larger, but as far as any known evidence, there are no pictures, there are no video recordings, nothing along those lines. It's just pretty much all eyewitness accounts, and they all say the same thing. It looks like a pterosaur. In fact, when the pterosaurs were shown, like drawings of pterosaurs were shown to some of the natives, they immediately said that that's it, that's the Kongamato itself. Also, what's distinctive is it has a large reddish, like a beak of some sort. It has huge, again, wings, a wingspan. Those teeth are also serrated because apparently its main food is fish. That's what it mostly eats. But it has been known, according to some tales, to eat also people. I don't think, though, it does this again, mainly as a predator type aspect. Instead, it'll probably eat someone if they're already dead, or if they come across it and it basically kills that person outright, then it starts eating that person as food too. So as far as the actual tales and the encounters, there are plenty of them. So I'm gonna handpick some of them here to talk about. One of the most well-known, I guess, descriptions happens to be in a book called In Witchbound Africa by a guy, an explorer by the name of Frank Wayland. And that's where he described everything associated with this creature. He tells about their leathery wings, how they don't have any feathers, how they look again like pterosaurs, or in some cases pterodactyls. He stated also that there was a swamp called the Giundu swamp, which is apparently located in northwestern Zambia. That is one of the known haunts of the Kongamato. So if you're ever there in that area, if you want to get a good chance, I don't really suggest it, but if you want to get a good chance of coming across this creature, then that's where you go. Because as he says it, it's a very kind of place in which such a reptile might exist, if at possible, anywhere. He also says that there are so many encounters that the people there in that area of Zambia carry charms of some sort to protect them whenever they cross these rivers. So whether that happens, like whether it actually does the trick or not, who knows? But it's still up for debate, but it seems to work in some cases. So he is pretty much the main person when it comes to, I guess, prescribing all the information related to this cryptid. As far as more encounters of it, there's a guy by the name of Dr. and these are his initials, JLB, last name Smith. He said that there was a guy that was living near Mount Kilimanjaro then in Tanzania, and he said that there's a guy who actually seen such a creature in flight close by at night. He did not dispute anything as far as what this creature was. He simply made sure that he took that guy at his word. I guess it was one of those deals where he definitely believed this guy. There was another encounter, a warden by the name of A. Blaney Percival. He was stationed there in Kenya, and he stated that I guess nomads or whoever the people there are, the Kitui Wakamba, that they have seen huge flying beasts which come down from Mount Kenya by night. They can only be seen against the sky. I guess that's the only way to truly spot them. You have to be looking up and essentially see that shadow. But they see all the information, and that's how the warden essentially came across his experience. There was another experience, another guy with initials JPF Brown. He was located somewhere near Lake Bangweulu there in Zambia. He stated that on April 2nd, 1957, he was driving back from some visit nearby an area called Kasenga. He stopped by a fort called Fort Roseberry. And as he was doing so, it was about 6 p.m., he saw what he described as two creatures flying slowly and silently directly overhead. The way he described them was they looked, and this is his quote, prehistoric. So obviously he knew what dinosaurs look like. He knew what to expect when someone asked him, how does a dinosaur look like? And in his case, he saw it and he immediately realized they are prehistoric. He guessed that their wingspan was about 3 to 3.5 feet. He even saw one of them open its mouth, and when he did so, he saw those large number of pointed teeth that it's famous for. So here's the guy that had an up-close encounter related to it. He was even asked to sketch a drawing of it, and then that way he could try to display what he saw. And when he did so, people immediately saw that it was more along the lines of a pterosaur. So quite fascinating stuff. There was yet another encounter, and this one involves this drawing here. There was an exploration team, I guess it was 1932, and it was being led by a guy named Ivan Sanderson. And he stated that he encountered, or his group encountered, this similar creature there at night. He didn't have a camera, obviously, during that time. It was a lot rarer to have cameras, but he was able to sketch a drawing of what he saw, because these explorers, it looks like they were under some kind of attack of some sort by this creature, and so he was able to either stay a while and draw it or get a really good glimpse in it at the situation and then draw it afterwards. But this is the actual drawing itself, and again, you'll see that it looks just like a pterosaur. So very, very fascinating stuff. Finally, there's one last, I guess you call it an encounter of sorts. There was a captain by the name of Charles R.S. Pittman. Lots of people with initials, if you haven't noticed. He stated that in 1942, well, he wrote actually during that year a nearly 300-page volume about the surrounding, I guess you could call it, regions of Uganda, and about the various superstitious fears related to it. And he said, one of them at least, the way he described it was, when in northern Rhodesia I heard of a mythical beast alleged to have a similar death-dealing attribute, which intrigued me considerably. It was said to haunt formerly and perhaps still to haunt a dense swampy forest region in the neighborhood of Angola and Congo borders. To look upon it too is death, but the most fearsome creature of this mystery beast is its suggested identity with a creature that's almost bat or bird-like on a gigantic scale reminiscent of the prehistoric pterodactyl. So again, those are his experiences when he came across those people there. There was even those that stated that they were seeing, as I mentioned a couple minutes back, some of these creatures, these Kongamatos, eating on decomposing human flesh. So it adds credence again to the idea that maybe they're not exactly hunters per se, but they will absolutely take care of any, I guess, decomposing flesh, including anything related to human bodies. So quite fascinating stuff. No, lots of encounters with regards to this creature. As far as any more recent ones, nothing really. There's a bit of an irony of sorts. A lot of the sightings seem to happen whenever it's time, I guess, on a seasonal basis for bird watching, yet the bird watchers themselves don't see the Kongamatos in those areas. Instead, they just see natural birds, natural large birds. But those that are not bird watchers during that same time period see what they report as the Kongamato. So it adds to the theory that as far as the identity of this creature, is it a dinosaur? Is it a long lost one? Who knows? One of the possible explanations is that it could actually be misidentified people essentially stating the wrong thing, even if by accident. They are looking up in the sky. They're not familiar with large birds, not familiar with how they move, maybe, or how they look like per se. And when that happens, they misidentify it as the local legend of the Kongamato, while the same, I guess, creature that's being seen by these non-bird watchers, when viewed by actual bird watchers, boom, they'll immediately identify it as, well, this is so-and-so bird, or this is something else completely realistic, as opposed to a long lost dinosaur. So that could be at least one credible explanation as to what this is. But if anyone has any more info, that'd be really great to hear. The Kongamato, especially if there's anything as far as more current encounters, anything within the more, I guess, years 2000 even, that would be really great to hear. So alright everybody, thanks again as always, take care.